Kia ora. I'm originally from New Zealand. I need to say that because otherwise English people are not going to listen to what I'm saying because you'll be too busy trying to work out where my accent is from. I've been living in Woking since 1996. And my story is one of personal transformation. I don't expect that many people here will identify with the details, but I'm putting my story at your service for anybody who's ever had a plan, especially if that plan has not quite worked out. I'm going to start with two pieces of good news from my own transformation story. 3 years ago, my children were on free school meals. This year, this month, I've got a tax bill which is more than my entire annual income was 3 years ago. This year is the first time that I will be earning a full-time equivalent income since 1997. Well, thank you. Those are my public work-related achievements, but they are not my proudest. My proudest achievement by a very long way has come about as part of transformation number 3, and we're not quite there yet. My story starts in New Zealand, as I said, where I grew up with quite an English-connected family. My grandmother lived in Sussex. My dad was somebody that was referred to as more English than the English. After I'd worked as a while for a radio journalist, I came over to the UK in 1990 and got a job working for London Weekend Television. In 92, I got married and I started working for a British-based multinational engineering company of about 30,000 people, amongst whom I was one of the most visible women, just because they didn't have many women. In 1997, I got made redundant while I was on maternity leave with my second child. But through connections, I got a job that was much closer to my true passion. It was with a body called the Whitehall and Industry Group. We called it the acronym of WIG. And we worked on the relationship between business and government. And that's something that I'm really interested in. My degree was originally in history and politics, and with my communications background, I was really interested in how these different worlds, which can be very separate, the people who create wealth in business and the people who regulate for it, how do they work together and learn from each other? So, this is probably transformation number 1. I'd arrived in 1990, literally with a backpack. I'd hot-bedded with a friend in Clapham. She was working night shifts, literally. We shared a bed at different times. And now I'm married with 2 children, a boy and a girl, and a job I love. That's my first snapshot, and that would be 98. My next snapshot is 2000. I've just had my 3rd baby in the space of 4 years. I'm getting divorced, and my father is dying, and I'm the only one to look after him in the UK. I want to emphasize that at this point, bizarrely, I'm very happy. I know it's controversial, but I am pro-divorce. I believe that in any human decision-making process, you have to allow for a failure rate. And I accept my responsibility in making the wrong choice the first time that I got married. I was also very happy because I was in love. I know that this is the way it's supposed to work. You fall in love, you get married, and you have children. What I had done was get married, have children, and then fall in love. I won't go on about it because there is a saying in writing that happiness writes white. we have many more words to describe what's going badly than what's going well. And things between me and Will went extraordinarily well. Together, we felt we were more than the sum of our parts, and that feeling never left us. So at this point, I step out of the workforce. I look after my father, I concentrate on my new relationship, and I also concentrate on building a stable family life for the 4 very young children who've got caught up in this adult mess. Will had a daughter who was 9 months older than my eldest, so between us we had 4. My next snapshot would be July 2007. Will has just achieved a lifetime ambition of running the London Marathon, in fact. He wanted to run any old marathon. He kept getting faster as he got older. And at the age of 43, he has just run a marathon in under 3 hours. His work is going really well. He's working as a director, a non-exec director, and a coach, particularly in public-private partnerships. The children are very happy and settled. They regard each other as siblings. I have started doing some voluntary work, which has turned into kind of a campaign to get funding for the biggest Kiwi expat association. We've just achieved funding for a full-time role that's going to take over from me. I've been offered a job as an editor of a magazine, and I want to start doing more coaching work, working with Will, so running a writing and coaching business together. So transformation has been going on. This is transformation number 2, but it's been very controlled, and it's been in partnership with the love of my life. And between us, Will and I have actually agreed that 2008 is going to be my year for stepping more fully into public and working life. Oh, and there's one other thing that I've just had an article published, a feature article in the Times, which I'm terribly proud of I came from a tiny little place in New Zealand, and now I've had my 3rd article in the Times. And it happens to be about Woking Hospice, which that year has been running a fundraising campaign for a dedicated children's bereavement counsellor. And it's the biggest fundraising campaign for a hospice in the UK that year. 2008 did not go as planned. Will died in February, just after our 9th anniversary. The thyroid cancer that he'd had 20 years previously came back and killed him very quickly. In fact, he never wanted to know timescales. It was just all too quick. I was told that he had 6 months to live. He had 1. And we ended up signing his will on the day before he collapsed and was admitted to Woking Hospice. So, at this point, you might have thought I knew quite a lot about rebuilding. I've done one lot. When I first came to the UK, on my own, no children, no responsibilities. I've rebuilt again, in partnership, with a plan. This time, my future has gone completely dark. I have no plan. It is all I can do to get through day by day. I cannot see the future. Sometimes I'm getting through hour by hour, just doing the driving and the food shopping. I remember looking at a pot of yogurt, the expiry date, and thinking, you mean there's going to be an April? As I saw it, there were 2 jobs that needed to be done. One was looking after these children. Thank you to the bereavement service at Woking Hospice. The other was earning money to support this family. I decided to concentrate on the caring and looking after the children. And I thought I would look after the money when we were all a bit stronger. Partly this was a choice that was forced upon me because you will remember that 2008 was the start of a global recession. The magazine that I was editing was one of the early casualties. I got the news that the magazine had gone bust. I got that news on the day of Will's funeral. The year after Will died, I started doing a coaching course. I knew or thought that some of Will's clients were going to want to work with me, and I didn't feel qualified. I chose to do a business coaching course, so when people refer to me as a life coach, I have to say, technically, I am not qualified in life. I chose this course also because it gave me the opportunity to have personal supervision with a woman called Professor Carol Kaufman, who had set up the Institute of Coaching at Harvard. And with my insecurity about not being qualified, I really wanted to bring a bit of that into my life. So one part of this plan worked. I did pick up some of Will's clients, one of whom was a young woman who had been earmarked as a prospective parliamentary candidate. Will had been working with her, and I continued to work with her. She got selected, she was elected in 2010, and she's gone on to be a headline-grabbing MP. I am absolutely not saying that I made her who she is, but one of the things I learnt was how rewarding it was to be part of that process of transformation. And when people talk about work-life balance, which quite often happens, I've got a problem because in my life as a whole, work and life are not in competition with each other. Work is a really rewarding part of my life. And in the period since Will died, you could say that work has been therapeutic, but you could also say it's been part of my transformation, this third transformation, is seeing how the right support and the right questions can help other people in their transformation. So, you will be familiar with that question you get from the back seat of the car. Are we there yet? I would say we're not. But I'm really clear that my biggest achievement is my family. Specifically, that when Will died, there was a question mark about his daughter, my stepdaughter, our eldest. She couldn't remember a time that she had not been part of our family, but Will did not think it was going to be possible for that to stay the case. I met Polly's mother for the first time in Woking Hospice 6 days before Will died. It was very clearly Polly's choice and the choice of us as a family, the 4 children and me, the 5 of us remaining, that we wanted to stick together as a family. That did make life more complicated. That meant I had 4 children, 3 different schools, an hour round trip to Polly's school, half an hour to the others. Polly stayed part of our family on exactly the same basis that anybody who's been through divorce will recognise. She was with us for 1 night a week, every second weekend and half her holidays. I think all the children would say that this is such a hard thing to say. The children have become much closer since Will died. We have those relationships, it's not sort of mediated through the fact that she's Polly's daughter. We are a family. I couldn't have done this without my friends. If I started naming them all, my own support team, I would have taken up the whole 18 minutes. I'm going to name 2 incredibly briefly. My next door neighbour, Pat, was and is amazing. She took over like half the driving for me for all these different schools. Another friend who I didn't particularly even know that well at my children's school had 6 children of her own. She undertook to deliver a meal to us one day every week for a year after Will died. It took longer than I might have hoped to get back to work. My first regular paid work came about through my existing New Zealand networking connections. I started doing some work for the University of Auckland in New Zealand. Then I was so honoured to be asked to be the agony aunt for Psychologies magazine. That was based on the fact that I had a coaching and a journalism background, and also I was now qualified through my complicated life. I have built my other business on these 2 planks. I now work for 2 universities, one in Australia, one in New Zealand. I coach and I write. My 3rd transformation is still going on. The things that have given me strength are, number 1, it's incredibly simple, love. When Will died, I decided I was going to eliminate anything out of my diary that I didn't absolutely love doing. I got better at prioritising. I got better at saying no. I got less scared. That question about what's the worst that can happen, that had a different meaning. I still get a huge amount of strength from the fact that I come from New Zealand. I regard that as a great privilege. I'm also incredibly grateful that my children have grown up here. We've had amazing support from schools, the health service, so many practical things that just work and are getting better. If I had to summarise my main lesson, though, it might draw slightly on Bill Clinton. When I'll let some of you older people go to that place, but when he was campaigning for election, he had a little phrase that reminded himself what voters were actually going to vote on. And that phrase was, "It's the economy, stupid." I slightly disagree in that there is no doubt that money is very important. There is no doubt that having a more stable financial situation would have helped the transition and the transformation that we had to go through. It would have made it faster, maybe better at the time, certainly easier. But there is something that is more important than that. So my version of Bill Clinton's words would be, "It's the relationships, stupid." And fortunately, it is much more elegant in Maori. In Maori, it would be, "E aha te mea nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata." What is most important in this life? It is people. It is people. It is people.